Alright, after viewing that last video, now we're going to take that information in its abstract generic form and apply it to actual equations or functions. And we're going to identify the vertex, the axis of symmetry, min, max, domain, and range for each function. So we start off, we have our function here, and it's usually best if we list out our a, h, and k. Remember, a, h, and k are just from our general vertex form right up there. So we just have to list out what's the number in front of our quadratic piece, what's the number affecting x directly, and what's the number affecting the entire function. So we go ahead and list them out. We have a, that's just going to be 1, no number listed, and it's a coefficient, it's going to automatically be 1. Our h, which we have to be careful of, it's negative 3 inside there, but when it comes out, it's going to become positive 3. And then finally, our k, which is the number on the end. We're subtracting 5, so our k is going to be minus 5. All right, so once we list these pieces out, it should hopefully follow and flow very nicely. So our vertex is always just hk, so that's going to be 3, negative 5. Our axis of symmetry is always the x of the vertex, so that's going to be x equals 3. Now we have to stop and think for a second, is this a minimum or a maximum? Now, in order to do this, we have to remember, what are we talking about? We're talking about whether or not the parabola opens up or opens down. We determine that by looking at our a. Our a is positive, so our parabola opens up. Since our parabola opens up, that means we have a minimum value. And that minimum value is y equals negative 5. Next, we talk about our domain, and that's always just x is a set of all real numbers. And finally, we have our range, again tied directly to our min or max. So we have a minimum value, which means our range is just going to be y greater than or equal to negative 5. All right. Again, a nice way to remember that is, what's our a? Our a is bigger than 0, right? Our a is 1, so it's bigger than 0, so our y is going to be bigger than negative 5. All right. Let's try another one, see how it's going. So we go again. Once again, we're looking at our function. We want to list our a, h, and k. So a in this one is going to be negative 3. Our h, it's a positive 5 inside the parenthesis, but when it comes out, it's going to be a negative 5. And then there's finally our k, which is plus 2. So now we have the information we need to, again, list out all the other information. Our vertex, hk, is negative 5, positive 2. Our axis of symmetry, that's just going to be the x of our vertex, so x equals negative 5. Min or max, is it opening up or opening down? In this case, a is negative 3, so our parabola opens down, which means we have a max at y equaling 2. Now we have our domain, that's always and forever, for this parabola, this type of function. All real numbers, or it's a member of the set of real numbers. And last but not least, our dear friend, the range, right? Again, we're talking about y values. We know it's going to be 2. Since it's a maximum value, we know all of our y's are going to be less than or equal to 2, because that 2 is the maximum value. Again, if we go to our a, we can see that a is less than 0, so we know our y is going to be less than 2. One last time, one last one. Let's see how it goes. All right, so this time our a is going to be negative 1/2. Our h is going to be, it's a negative 3 in our function, but when it comes out, it becomes positive 3. And our k is 6. That stays the same sign. So we go to our vertex. Once again, it's hk, so that's going to be 3, 6. our axis of symmetry, x equals 3. Min or max, it's opening downward, so it's going to be a maximum at y equals 6. Our domain, x, is a member or an element of all the real numbers. Those are all possible values for x. And last but not least, our range. Because it's a max value, we know the numbers aren't going to get any bigger than 6, so y is going to be less than or equal to 6.